join a school which had given adequate freedom to their teachers. What the NEP is talking about today, integration of subjects, was something that we did in 1986. We used, let me give you an example. I think we have talked a little bit in theoretical terms. So let me take you back to the practical aspect. If you are to talk about integration and you want to take up the topic of insects, now what do? It's very simple. Take the children out into the garden, make them look around, let them look at the insects, come back to class. A science teacher could talk about insects and also get them to understand the subtle difference between insects and the 8-legged creatures, insecta and arachnida. Now, the English literature teacher can talk about the poem, the famous poem that we have all studied in school, Ant and the Grasshopper, and talk about the values that are needed. Now, the advantage I have here is being the last speaker. Everything else is covered by the others before me. So let me go on to the practical aspect once again. The mathematics teacher, she can talk about the bees, how the bees go looking for a patch of flowers, come back and communicate using the waggle dance, keeping the distance and the sun's position in mind. And no bee goes wrong in locating the patch. The yoga teacher can talk about the breath of the bees and teach them how to use this breathing technique to get the clutter out of the mind and to get them to focus. The geography teacher could ask the children to learn about the insects of the world. So there is so much of integration that happens. And the school where I worked in, we also had in the primary no textbook. So what are we talking about today? What NEP is talking about was something that existed if you wanted to do it. I was teaching in a school. I was teaching in a primary section. My Hindi is weak. So they were looking for a Hindi teacher. I was told by the principal that I need to go to standard 1 to take mathematics in standard 1. And the standard 1 teacher, who was good in Hindi, would come to my grade 5 and teach Hindi. I said, okay, to teach maths, it's not rocket science, let me go. There were 4 divisions, A, B, C, D. So all divisions have to be on par, goes without saying. Now I go here, the rest of them were homeroom teachers. So they were in the same class from morning to evening. So they had more than one period to teach what they had to teach. And here goes yours truly to the class. And by the time I distribute the books to the children and you call out the names, they're looking somewhere and I don't know them by name. So by the time I distribute the books, the bell rings and it's time for me to leave. 2 days and 3 days and 4th day, I mustered up enough courage, went to the principal and I said, ma'am, I cannot teach maths. So the principal was wearing specs just like I do. She took the specs here and she looked at me like that. And she said, you can't teach maths, you can't teach Hindi. What can you teach? I came home. I started thinking, she's right. As a teacher, I have no right to say, I can't teach. I can't teach a particular subject. If it is possible, I need to do that. I started thinking. That was the beginning of one of the new techniques that I came up with, teaching mathematics through fairy tales. I came up with the technique of teaching mathematics for the primary using fairy tales. Now, I would go to class and ask them, which fairy tale? Give them the 1 or 2 names and ask them. It is a Hobson's choice. They would pick up one and then we would use the fairy tale. The books were kept closed. I didn't dare distribute the books. I used the chalkboard and the story to teach them mathematics. Addition was the topic that had to be done. 1 week, I had the children eating out of my palms. They called me maths teacher. And after that, it was not difficult to distribute the books, because then I would tell them, here is an incentive for you. How do the children learn? Children learn when you tell them. Children learn when you show them. Children learn when you correct them, when you coach them, when you inspire them, and when you reward them. After 8 days, when they started learning mathematics, what I did was reward them. Till then, I told them, I showed them, I inspired them, I motivated them, coached them, and now was the time to reward them. I said, now you do this within such and such a time. I will tell you this fairy tale, and we will continue to learn maths using this fairy tale. So, to my mind, NEP is one where it's going to help us to move from rote learning to learning which is concept-based.